Hi there, everyone. This is Tom with Escape Artist, and I have a great pleasure to be interviewing today Lal and Denise from the Netherlands, expats living in another country, and they're going to be sharing some really insightful information into what it's like to live in the Netherlands. And they're working with Escape Artist Home Business on some projects and escape dates, and just have a lot of great value to provide to our readers about being an expat. You know, in today's economy, there's a lot of people that are looking outside of the United States and some of the first world countries and looking for places for better quality of life, you know, where they can make their dollars go a little bit farther. Don't know if that's true in the Netherlands, but we'll be finding out in this interview. And we have Lal, Denise. I just want to say hi to you and find out a little bit about your background and what brought you to the Netherlands. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, we're great, actually.
Good.
Well, I mean, what took us to the Netherlands actually is Lal's position with the American School of The Hague. So that's why we're there. He's in charge of IT there, the director of IT. So, you know.
Yeah, it was actually, we were living in the States for a number of years, and the opportunity arose to come here. Unfortunately, another opportunity arose for Denise in the States, so we were split for about 15 months, 16 months. Living on two continents, but Skype makes a big difference. So, yeah. And then finally Denise came over as well, and that was a job, you lost your job there.
Yeah, so the company went out of business, so I was able to then emigrate to the Netherlands. So, and while I was here, I began working for another fashion firm, so in the same industry, not in the education field at all.
So tell me, how do you live in the Netherlands? Were either of you born there, or are you on work visas? How do you live in the Netherlands?
Neither of us were born here, actually. I was born in the States, and Lal.
I was born in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka.
And then my parents then emigrated to the UK when I was 7 years old. So I suppose that was my first international move, coming by boat. But then I had the great opportunity to go back to Sri Lanka to work there for an international school, and took my three girls with me. And that's how Denise and I met. Because
I was moved to Sri Lanka for a big international fashion firm. Was overseeing production for the likes of Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie & Fitch and that kind of thing. Where I was in charge of production there. And my daughter was at the school that Lal was teaching, and the girls were friends, etc. We got to know each other, and that's
history now.
That's history.
Yeah. But little did Denise know that I'd actually written up a little checklist of who I want to meet in the future.
So strange. You know how they say in The Secret, you put it down and the world brings it to you. You know what I mean? You put it in writing, and I don't know if you've read The Secret and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But anyway, Lal had written this months, about a year before I ever arrived in Sri Lanka, before I ever had the notion of moving to Sri Lanka. And it was very specific, down to likes to ride horses, wants to have a dog, wants their own business, many, many things. Loves to play on swings. I know that sounds stupid, but I do like, kids' playgrounds and the swings. Crazy but true. And, musical, artsy, blah, blah, blah. It was like an a la carte menu, which basically described me. And only after we were married did he bring this piece of paper out, which I thought, oh my God, it's like prophecy. It's the strangest thing. But it's actually the truth. He did this about a year before I ever arrived there. And the only thing that hasn't materialized until now is having our own business together.
Yeah.
So.
But we might have that opportunity with a lot of the things that we're doing. So that's exciting. So you weren't stalking her or anything. This was just a quiet thing that you wrote down a long time before, right? Okay.
Yeah, about 10,000 miles apart.
Yeah, I got you. Good. Good. Well, I tell you what will cure you of your liking the children's playgrounds is that thing that spins real fast. If Lal will put you in the center of that and spin it as fast as you can, you may never go back. So.
No, that part I don't like. Yeah. It's only the swing set. Yeah.
Tell me about the Netherlands. What is appealing about it? Tell me the good and and the bad about it. What's your opinion of the Netherlands for people all around the world are going to see this video? So they may be, looking at it from the United States or Asia, and what's it like?
Well, I personally love it. Of all the places I've lived, and I've lived a lot of places within the U.S. and a few places outside the U.S. And a couple of things. I like the way people are with their families, with their children in particular, and it shows in the way that the way they interact with their kids. So, for example, you'll see kids on the front of the bike, kids on the back of the bike, and the whole time mom and dad are talking to the kids, and it really shows in the behavior of the children, because you almost never go into a shop and find a tantrumy child. It's just so remarkable. There's a lot of parental leave that's allowed by the government. So when a child is born, both mother and father are allowed time off. So there are a lot of things by the government which foster this sort of family culture. But the biking culture, more than anything, fosters it, I think, because, they've got these bikes with these big sort of buckets on the front where the kids sit in the buckets, and they're little, like plastic tents over the top so they don't get wet in the rain. But the whole time there's constant chatter. I mean, you're walking all the time, and you're going by these bikes, or they're going by you, and you just think, wow. You oftentimes see kids in the States in a stroller, and mom's got her iPod on. So the two things are completely disconnected.
Sure.
But it's not like that in Holland. For one, it's dangerous, of course, to ride a bike with an iPod. I mean, good grief.
They still do.
They do it, so that's, I think, a huge plus. I mean, it's just very family oriented. And the biking culture, I think, is a real plus.
The big downside to that is, as a driver, you really got to have your wits about you. You've got to have eyes in the back of your head. You've got to be constantly looking if you're going to be taking a turn. But that just comes with the territory. You get used to it. Bikers do have the right of way, unfortunately, in many, and sometimes they take advantage of it. But it's a great place. We really enjoyed it. We've been here now 7 years.
Yeah.
And it just grows on you. I mean, the things like markets. A Saturday market, unbelievable.
Like a big open fruit and veg market. I mean, it's just extraordinarily colorful, and it's also very family oriented, and all ages of people, and it's a great place to people watch, but it's also a great place to find, organic or regular fruit and veg and flowers. The flower markets, oh my gosh. You just look around and go, oh, I don't know what to buy, and it's so cheap. Just fabulous, really.
The downside to here is the taxes. Taxes are very high. That's something that you get used to in that way.
Income tax, yeah.
But then the benefits especially for families, is the government benefits are good.
Mm-hmm. Healthcare is great.
Healthcare is good, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of pluses to balance off, obviously, the taxes. If you come in as an expat, there is what they call a 30% ruling. Where 30% of your salary is actually tax-free. And now that was up to just January of this year, a 10-year tax period. Mm-hmm. So for the first 10 years, if you're living in the country, 30% of your salary is tax-free. Mm-hmm. And then the balance is taxed. But they dropped that down to 8 years now. Still, it's a good, considerable period of time. Mm-hmm. Buying a place here is pretty easy.
It's very easy.
In fact, that's one of our hobbies here. We've bought a couple of places and actually restored a really old house, the one we're in now. It was lived in by squatters, and we were able to restore this and bring it back to its sole grandeur in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So how old is the architecture of the house that you've restored?
1850.
Yeah, it's a bit over 100 years, and it was something like 12 years lived in by squatters. I mean, it was an awful long time. And when we moved in, it was you couldn't inhabit the place. Well, not a normal person. I mean, a squatter maybe, but no electricity, no plumbing, no nothing.
No walls.
No walls. No walls. It was a disaster. But anyway, so that's another hobby of ours.
What about getting supplies? I know in the U.S. we're used to running down to Home Depot or Lowe's, and we can buy 20 of every type of thing. What are the supplies like in the Netherlands to be able to get materials that you need?
Not a problem at all. And there are big sort of hypermarkets or whatever you would call them, like Home Depot. they're not necessarily close by, because I think in these European cultures in general, they foster more of the sort of family business more than they foster these big, super markets. And I don't mean as in a grocery, but they don't. There are some, of course, but they tend to. I don't know if it's the government or the culture of the people. They tend to whatever you call it, work with more local,
the smaller
family-owned businesses. But there are big hypermarkets. It's not difficult to go and get, 20 of everything if you need 20 of everything.
Right. And there's
Go ahead.
Sorry. There's the areas for businesses and where you have these hypermarkets. So it's in that way controlled by the government, so for traffic purposes and so on. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to find.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about, you've mentioned biking. What are the other forms of entertainment? I was interviewing somebody from Saudi Arabia the other day, and they said if you're a single man and you want to go party, Saudi Arabia is just not the place you want to go. So I know my recollection of everybody I've met from the Netherlands is they all are 7 foot tall. So everybody I've been around from the Netherlands has seemed very tall.
They are tall.
They're now the tallest nation in the world as of about 3 years ago, overtook the US. But there's some great places here. Europe, especially mainland Europe, you have these squares. Every town has its square. And around
a plain.
A plain, yeah. And you'll have restaurants, cafes, all around this. And they're great. Summertime, wintertime, there's always people around.
So outdoor seating, and then it's just, just coffee and hanging out with friends and music and that kind of thing. But biking is not so much entertainment here in the Netherlands as it is an absolute just necessity. I mean, most families, multiple bikes, and oftentimes don't use the car for weeks on end.
Wow.
And you go to the Amsterdam or the Den Hague or any of the train stations, and it's thousands, and I mean thousands of bikes, multi-level stacked, like we would have car parks at the airports, and they have bike parks. Unbelievable. So they do use it as entertainment, it's true. There are bike paths that go for hundreds and hundreds of miles, just as there are canals that go hundreds and hundreds of miles. So you could also boat from town to town if you like. But, I mean, it's not unusual for us to get on the bike and go 10, 15, 20 miles, and that's nothing. Because I worked with people that went 25 miles one way to work and back. Rain, snow, you name it, they did it. It's just part of the culture. But in terms of entertainment, it's a more relaxed culture. It's not as driven as the States, I would say. And it's more like you wine and dine with friends, and it's, sometimes wine at lunch, usually wine with dinner, just a very relaxed,
yeah.
And it's not that they don't work hard. I don't mean that at all, because they do, but they play too. Yeah. It's a nice balance in that way, really nice balance.
What would be, say, 3 things that you would recommend somebody who comes to the Netherlands? What would be the 3 things that you would say that maybe off the beaten tourist path? What's the 3 things you would tell people definitely to do if they come to the Netherlands?
Well, there's one at least that it's probably on the beaten path, but you must do it nonetheless. Yeah. It's called Kinderdijk, and there are, 19 windmills all in one area, and you can take a canal ride and see them. You can tour one of the windmills, etc. But it is spectacularly beautiful. And I think everybody who comes to Holland should see it. And many Dutch people haven't even seen it, honestly. The second thing is Kokenhof, which is it's the tulip season. Kokenhof is a garden, and it's also spectacularly beautiful. Many Dutch people haven't seen it.
But the best part is if you get off the beaten track from that Kokenhof Gardens, which is the tourist centre, go through the fields.
The tulip fields.
Acres and acres of unbelievable colour.
And when you fly over, you can't believe what you're seeing. It's like something out of the Wizard of Oz. It's stripes of red and yellow and purple. It's really gorgeous.
So you just rent a bike if you haven't got one, and you bike through the fields.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
But off the beaten track, there are a couple of things. There's a church in Hague, which in the States they would pronounce Gouda, but the G is, so it's pronounced Hague here. And in that town, it's called St. John's Kirk. It's a 16th century church which has stained glass that would be at least equal to Sainte-Chapelle in Paris. It is unbelievable. It is so gorgeous. They took those windows out and buried them underground during World War II. That's how concerned they were about preserving those stained glass windows. And there's a caretaker there who's made it his life's passion, work, whatever,
to give the story.
To tell the story. And it's so absolutely charming. You just go in there and you want to cry because you just think, holy cow. It's just really, really amazing. And people don't know about that.
Yeah, that's tucked away off the square. We
found it by accident ourselves.
So, there's a lot of little bits and pieces. I think you just explore them as you enter the country.
Yeah. There's another little sort of nugget. I don't know if most people in the States, I didn't know, but the Pilgrims started here. They lived in Leiden, which is a town about 20, not even, maybe 10 kilometers or not even 10 miles, but about 10 kilometers from the Hague. And the Pilgrims lived here for 12 years before they left from here, went to Plymouth, and then transferred to the Mayflower and came to the States. So there's a lot of Pilgrim history here as well, particularly in Leiden. And there are small-ish museums which have preserved the history there. And that's really, really worth seeing also.
What's really interesting is another nugget here, more personal, is that Denise's mother had traced their family ancestry back to one of the gentlemen on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
And his name is inscribed in the book here in the church, which kept a list of all the pilgrims.
Yeah, where they worshipped.
Yeah. So quite a bit of history there.
Yeah, a lot of history here.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And it's funny because, people think of the Netherlands as, prostitution and pot. It's not even, it doesn't even rate. We don't see it on a day-to-day basis. It's not part of what everyday people do or think about. It exists, but it's like, so what?
It blends into the culture.
It's not what we think of as the Netherlands at all.
Red light district.
Tell me about, I know a lot of people are getting, I know, concerned in the United States and in other first world countries about just this policing atmosphere and it just feeling like, everything's becoming militarized. What's the feeling in the Netherlands? Is it a little bit more comfortable? Does it feel like a safe society? Is there a lot of government intervention? How does it feel over there?
It definitely seems a safer society, but I think it's a lot of the governments are going in that direction in policing, but you don't sense that here. Mm-hmm. You really don't sense it, and safety for children is that's huge here because when our daughters were out, they would go out by themselves to the middle of the night and come back.
We had my nephew here. My nephew was 17 years old when he moved here, and he went to school here last year, stayed here with us. Honestly, we could put him on a bike or public transport at any time, from here to Wassenaar to Leiden or whatever, any place. Never, ever, ever had a concern. He had a cell phone that was just, the biggest concern was he'd fall off his bike.
Right.
Nothing more.
So in terms of privacy and things like that from the government, it's really, it's not a concern because the government, it's an open society in that sense. I think they're losing some of that, but it's still a pretty open society and tolerant, very tolerant. I think from what I can gather, only recently they've stopped the sale of pot, for example, to tourists in certain areas. Because they find that the tourists are the ones that cause more problems than the locals.
Right.
But that's all controlled in the sense that there are coffee shops as such where you can go in and have some pot and spend an hour, 2 hours in there, and then come out. So they've made it a more easy environment in that way.
Gotcha.
But you don't get the sense of government interference at all. It feels like a very comfortable, very safe society, at least to me, for sure.
So if somebody was moving there, kind of give me just a quick outline of, what area would they want to move to, for a first time, for maybe their first year. We got an authority here on education. So what's the education system like for, expat kids? Give me a little quick rundown of what their first year would look like, where they would want to live. Do they want to live in a high rise? Do they want to buy a house? Do they want to rent? Is it difficult to get utilities? What's the quick rundown on the first year?
Well, education obviously is the primary concern for any family moving in. And there's a real good collection of international schools here. The American school, the Hague, is the one that I work at, and that's based in a town called Wassenaar, which is just about 5 miles north of the Hague. And we have about 1,100 students there, and they come from 66 nationalities as of this year. So it's a real international school. It runs an American program, as well as the International Baccalaureate, which is a true international program. There's the British school, which has more students, about 3,000 students in their 6 schools. And there's a couple of other international schools. One
International School of the Hague,
International School in Amsterdam. So there's a good collection, depending on where you're located in terms of Amsterdam or the Hague. There are plenty of schools available. And if it's our school, for example, the majority of the families stay in the town of Wassenaar. I think as of this year, 40% of the population are made up of expats in that town, which is pretty big.
That's a lot.
It is, yeah. I mean, The Hague itself is an international city, and there's a lot of major international organizations based here. So hence you've got 2 international schools in The Hague itself, plus the American school, which is not far from here. Accommodation is very easy to get hold of. Lots of good real estate agents. Quite a few families will just come in and rent houses. In most cases, if it's family, there's plenty of houses available. No shortage of that, or apartments as well.
English well spoken.
Yeah, no problem with language. Getting a mortgage, if you prefer to buy a place, it's very easy. Even though the banks have tightened up to a certain degree. Mortgages are easy to get with, and there's some really good mortgage brokers who only deal with expats. So they take care of everything from the moment you just sign paper with your mortgage broker. He deals with the bank. So basically, you don't deal with the bank at all. He's really great in that way.
What about the cost? What about the cost on the American schools, or on what would be the average tuition for a child to go to school in the Netherlands at the schools you've spoken of?
The school that I work in, I would say the average price, so it'll vary depending on what age you're in, would be about 18,000 euros, so about $20,000 a year. And on all the websites, there's always the fees structured there, so you can actually see that. The British school would be a little bit cheaper than us, and obviously the international school, The Hague, which is sponsored by the government, which caters for a lot of the returning expats, Dutch expats. That's probably about 8,000, 9,000 euros.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. It really depends. What we find is our second largest grouping of nationalities in the school are actually Dutch, because the Dutch expats coming back from overseas contracts have been in an international school, and they would prefer to stay in that program. It runs the IB and also an American program. So that's why our second largest grouping are Dutch students at the American school, strangely enough. So it's good. Education is really not a problem here. The parent families have got a great choice of really good schools.
That's great. And so I understand you're going to be doing some blogging about some passions of yours, and you're going to be blogging about the Netherlands, and you're setting up a social and business networking community for people that are interested in the Netherlands through our Escape Dates community, which is a new thing that you're going to be working with. So kind of being an authority on the Netherlands is important. It seems you all have been there for a while and you know a great deal about it. So tell me about this passion of blogging, Denise, and I know you've got some things you're going to be working on with that. What exactly is that?
Well, I mean, I like the Netherlands a lot. I think it's important, what I would like to share is what I like about the Netherlands, what I think is cool. I think it's often overlooked, and I think a lot of Americans, for example, don't can't find the Netherlands on a map and those kind of things. So I think it's more just, sort of information. Don't overlook this place. Everybody thinks of Paris, and there's a lot to Western Europe, and I think the Netherlands is very, very charming. And I think so. I'd like to just share information about that. Some things about the art here, the culture of the Netherlands. Those kind of things, I guess.
And also because one of the things that Denise started writing was notes from the bike path. Basically, when we used to go biking around the country, she would just take photographs and write about it, mainly for family to know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So, and we came across some great places off the beaten path, as you can say, and it was really interesting. And those ideas we'd like to share, and to give tips of if it's coming into the country, how to settle in, what to watch out for. Certainly if you're looking at properties, we've got some really great contacts. If you need renovations, again, we've got contacts there. And that makes life easier, because when I came here first and Denise joined, it wasn't that easy, but now it is a lot easier. So we'd like to share that information.
I forgot to ask about the practice of religion. What is the primary faith? And tell me a little bit about religion in the Netherlands. How is it viewed, and what are the primary faiths?
Well, it's a heavily Christian society, but there is a large population of Muslims, mostly immigrants, some from Turkey, a lot from Morocco and places like that. There in The Hague also there is a particular group of like Hasidic Jews and that kind of thing. So religion in general, anything you particularly want to practice is widely accepted. I don't get any sense of discrimination whatsoever. And but it's predominantly a Christian society, I would say.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Catholic when you refer to Christian?
Yeah.
Catholic and Protestant, yeah. And a lot of English-speaking churches, really catering for the expat community.
Yeah.
Both here in The Hague and Amsterdam, in the big cities.
Well, of course, here in The Hague, you've got large corporations. Shell, of course, is based here, and also, the international ports and that kind of thing. So there's a very large expat community here in The Hague, and that's part of why the schools are so good here, that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So would you say The Hague is kind of like the New York City of the United States? Is it with everything being here? Is it the
Good question. That's a really good question. It's maybe more like the Chicago.
Chicago.
I would say people more often think of Amsterdam. Personally, Amsterdam can be charming. I mean, there are parts of Amsterdam which are lovely, but it's so touristy that Lal and I don't prefer it, actually. There are other towns, traditional Dutch towns, Haarlem for one, Maastricht for another, Delft, Leiden, other towns that we like better than Amsterdam, personally. So for us, The Hague we prefer over Amsterdam. So yeah, we sort of like Chicago over New York, I guess, in that way.
And Hague tends to be a more quiet, a lot more culture here as well, in that sense, museums, and you can walk around and you may not bump into a tourist for quite a while, but it's like a hidden gem for a big city. So, yeah.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about, you have the opportunity to live as an expat. As we say, live where you want to live how you want to live, love who you want to love, and make money doing it. I know that you all have an escape artist dream outside of the Netherlands. What else is on your map? Where else do you want to be able to travel to, and what would be the ultimate lifestyle for you?
Well, we would like to have a place always here in The Hague, or in the Netherlands, not necessarily The Hague, but that's where we are now. A place in the States and a place in warm weather, and that could be, it could be southern France, could be Sri Lanka, which we of course love. Could be Tuscany. Those would be the key places, I think. We probably wouldn't get farther east than Sri Lanka.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And so with your community, with Escape Dates, hopefully we'll get to see some videos and some notes and blogs and things like that. And I know that people all around the world are going to be taking a look at your all's profile, and you're in the process of getting ready to put that up. So we have contacts. We have people in the Netherlands, as they say, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. One of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is actually taking road trips. We drive because the Netherlands is so well situated. You can just drive. We could drive to London, take the tunnel into London from Calais. Or we drive down to France quite a lot, Germany. We were going to drive all the way down to Italy, which a number of our colleagues have done. Our friends have done that, and it is doable. And it's a great journey. It's very easy. And you see so much when you have your own car. You can just stop where you want.
We've driven to Poland.
Yeah, driven to Poland. It's just wonderful.
Shoot, we've driven to Paris just for dinner.
She found a great Lebanese restaurant, and we thought, why not?
Yeah. Dinner with my mom.
Yeah. So that was good.
Well, you've traveled. You're from two different countries. You're living in another country. We always say that fear, family, finances, and friends is usually what prevents people from living their escape artist dream. What words of advice or parting words of advice do you have for our readers on what you've done, and any words of encouragement or advice you can give our readers?
Yeah, never give up a chance to live overseas, period.
Yeah.
If you ever have the opportunity, just do it. When I moved to Sri Lanka, they were cutting power 8 hours a day. I sat in the dark crying the first few weeks. Seriously. Because no AC, no generator, no nothing, no screens on the windows, bugs the size of Rhode Island. You name it. It was, oh my gosh.
Hold on. No internet either?
No, nothing. Come on. It was dial-up if I had it. And that's a place it takes an act of God to get internet.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
They had internet there. It was dial-up at the point, yeah. I was working with it. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But my daughter was 14 when we moved there, and she didn't want to go, kicking and screaming, bitched the whole time. And after all was said and done, she said, Mom, it's the best thing we ever did. And it changed her life, and I would really, it's not easy. You'll get frustrated and ticked off, but do it. Do it.
It's the same with the girls. When they went there, the youngest was 4 years or 5 years old, the oldest was 11. But they classify that as the best time in their lives. And they look at themselves not as English or whatever, but as international citizens of the world, because they would go easily anywhere, jump on the plane if they've got the money, and then So I would say take the plunge if you're given the opportunity. When I was given the opportunity to go to Sri Lanka to work, it was the middle of a civil war in the country in '89, and I had 3 young children, 3 young girls, and I just went. My mother was horrified. She said.
His Sri Lankan mother was horrified. She lived her entire life there until,
Every time you turn the news on BBC, there was bodies being washed up on the shore and things like that.
And we saw stuff like that.
Yeah, but it changed my life completely going out abroad. I was British in every aspect of the word, except the colour of my skin. But going back, I realised who I was. But for the children, it was great. It's a small world. It really is. And I end up with a wonderful wife. So, it would never have happened if I didn't go. So, you never know what adventures are out in front of you. So I would say take the plunge.
And don't regret it for a minute.
Yeah. No regrets. Not one.
Definitely do it again.
So we've got some great advice, lots of very direct knowledge about the Netherlands and some great places to visit, even some offbeat places. And Lal and Denise, it's been a real pleasure interviewing you. And I know that it's important to people when they do make the move that they can have somebody to communicate with you. And we look forward to seeing your community on escape dates and reading about your blogs, and certainly inviting you to share some articles in Escape from America magazine that will also expose that, because people are looking for a better quality of life. They are looking all around the world, and they're saying probably the largest migration of expats will happen in the next 10 years than that's ever happened in history for people traveling all around the world. So I appreciate this time with you, and look forward to doing more interviews with you and seeing more content and helping you grow your business with escape dates so you can realize your escape artist dream and have all those places that you've talked about. They sound like some lovely places.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks. It was our pleasure.
Good. Take care, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.